Dobry dzień. Hi, this is Piero Giorgio. I'm here, as you might have recognized, let me turn, on the Karlov Bridge in Prague, in Czech Republic. It's always a great pleasure for me to be in this country, in this city. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. And I wanted today to talk to you about basically, first of all, how is the economic collapse going to affect the Czech Republic and Prague? A little bit about my experiences here with the Czech people, and therefore how they will, I think, probably react to such an economic collapse. And of course, some historical anecdotes about history here. Well, let's start with that actually, because it's more interesting. Well, here in Prague, of course, it's a very beautiful city, very interesting part of the world. But as you see as I turn behind me, you see the castle. And actually, what's interesting is that in this city started in 16 and 18, the beginning of the 30 Years' War. They actually threw some of the envoys of the German emperor off the window, and of course that sparked some war which was already in the brewing. And at the time it was a religious war, and it lasted 30 years, and it was fought mostly in Germany and Central Europe. And I encourage you to study that war, to look in Wikipedia, the summary, and then perhaps if you're interested by history as I am, to study a bit more about it. Because it's a very interesting conflict, and it was extremely brutal and extremely cruel, especially in Germany. I think there was some 30% of the population was killed or starved. And a lot of people think that the kind of collapse that we're going to face, it's a little bit like the fall of the Roman Empire, but probably also a little bit like the 30 Years' War, because it's long, because it will be extremely cruel, it will be extremely religious in a sort of way, even if it may not be religions per se, but it will be people who will slaughter each other for ideas, or for just plain survival to get food, and for the plain pleasure of killing and raping and pillaging. I mean, human nature is like that, unfortunately. So look at this, because a lot of people say, oh well, if the economy collapses, people are going to be friendly to each other, people are going to be nice. I don't think so. I think history shows us that people are brutal, people are nasty, and it will be very, very, very tough and difficult. Now, so that was the historical point of view, and Prague is also full of history, but that I digress, and I can talk to you for hours about it. Now, interesting point about economic collapse here in Prague is the Czech Republic is in Central Europe, the Mittel Europa, as the Germans would call it over the last centuries, and is a country that has a strong identity, a strong cultural identity for a long time. Of course, it was part of the German Empire, then part of the Habsburg, Austro-Hungarian Empire. And for a long time, Czech people defined themselves sort of as part of an empire, but at the same time independent and free, at least in their mind. And they developed a sense of humor, a sense of cynicism that is quite healthy and quite funny, I think. They have a very interesting sense of humor. They also kept a sort of ethnic homogeneity, and actually you see it in the city. Besides tourists, which are from all over the world, because it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world, Prague and the Czech Republic are extremely homogeneous. You can only see white people here. You can only see Caucasian. Actually, you see Czech and perhaps mixed Czech-Slovakian people, but you don't see people from Africa. You don't see people from the Middle East. A little bit, but not like in France, not like in the United States, of course, not like in England, not like in Sweden. They're crazy in Sweden with immigration. Anyway, here you have homogeneity, and that is a big asset, because people at least will not slaughter each other and hate each other in terms of racial grounds, as they will elsewhere, unfortunately. Now, another interesting part of that culture is that when Czech and Czechoslovakia became a country in 1919, they kind of defined themselves very strongly as a small, like Switzerland or Belgium, a small, independent, and a strong cultural country. And of course, then they were part of the Soviet kind of socialist, I would call it empire as well. And they gained again independence in 1990. Actually, that's when the first time I came here was in 91. And I've been coming here quite often, actually a lot, for business and sometimes for weekends and some fun. It's a very romantic city as well. And I had a few girlfriends here, so I had the opportunity to come quite a lot. And it was worth it, really good. Nice people here, actually, very beautiful people. So, interesting element about the collapse is that obviously the economy of the Czech Republic is strongly linked with Germany, strongly linked with international commerce, and it's strongly linked with tourism. All this is going to probably disappear, and if we don't go to a very strong collapse, perhaps some of the links with Germany for manufacturing will remain. And the good news is that Czech have a very strong manufacturing tradition for machines, shoes, textile, but also, and that is very important, small weapons. And actually not so small either, but most importantly, small weapons. You have the VZ, the CZ manufacturer, which produces the VZ-58 machine gun, which is a sort of better Kalashnikov. You have the VZ-82, VZ handguns, which are really good, and they also produce middle size and heavy weapons. But that is also important because it gives the skills and experience to produce defense systems, and that is going to be important. Now, the laws here on owning guns are very different from elsewhere, but it's still possible. There's a lot of hunting. It's still possible to own. Not as in Switzerland, not as in the United States, but certainly if the collapse happened, there's a chance that any government that keeps control can probably organize militias, can organize defense, and again, because it's homogeneous, there's going to be less risks of total chaos and total turmoil. And yes, there will be some usual minorities who will create problems, but again, I think because of the homogeneity, people are going to be able to defend themselves. So in fact, Czech Republic and in general Central Europe, Poland, Hungary, and even you could push to Romania, of course, and Bulgaria, Slovakia certainly, Slovenia, Croatia. These countries, which I know well, I think are very well set up, if you can say such a thing, for economic collapse. In fact, they will probably survive very, very well. And so often I get the question from some of my clients or some people who read my books, should I move to these countries? And I always say, well, yeah, yes and no, be careful. If you move, you have to feel you're part of those. You cannot be a tourist. You cannot be just a foreigner or a visitor. You have to root yourself there. And it's not easy. It takes a lifetime. And it takes many generations before people accept you as being part of the place. Now, today, of course, they're friendly because it lives off of tourism. But in difficult times, the foreigners are never liked by the locals. And that's normal. It's human nature. So you have to be rooted, and you have to know language, and probably you need to be married with someone who's from here and who has connections. So it's not easy. Not easy at all, but if you can do that, yes, it's a fantastic place. It's a great, great country. And now, what are the assets? I talked about manufacturing, but I was putting this is not the first asset, of course. The first asset is there is rain. There's lots of water. As you can see behind me, there is the river, which is often flooding, but it's one of the most important elements in any place. Do you have enough water? And here, it's in Central Europe. It rains often. There's a lot of water that in the water tables. They're not exploited too much, so you can dig wells. It's very simple to get water. Agriculture is also very good. You have lots of food production. The winters can be harsh. That's true, and this is why you have pork tradition. Every country that had difficult winters in Europe developed pork, because pork is an animal that you can slaughter in the fall, in the beginning of the winter, and have food for the whole winter. It's the way it is. That's why in this part of the world you will never have cultures that forbid you to eat pork. They will die if they come here, because if you don't eat pork, you're fucking dead in these places. So yeah, guess what? This is never going to be a Muslim place. It's impossible unless Muslims start to eat pork, which is also difficult to imagine. But anyway, not that I care, but this is a place that you will need to really fit into the land tradition. So, yeah, agriculture is great. In terms of energy, of course, that's always difficult everywhere, but surely you can put dams on the rivers as they have. And there's still one or two, I believe there are nuclear power plants still operating here, and that hopefully can be modernized, made very safe, and be used. And I know that nuclear power is always a religion. Some people hate it, some people like it. You have to be pragmatic probably in the future. And of course, defense I mentioned, and the social link, the social bond between people is still quite strong. And to conclude on the people, I said there are very beautiful people here, which is important, if only for aesthetic reasons. But they are homogeneous. They really feel Czech. They have their own language, which makes it difficult for other people to come here. Of course, it's not such a difficult language. It's not like Hungarian, but it's still a language that you need to learn. It's not easy. They're very friendly people. They're very open. They're very collaborative, so that it's people that know how to work with others. After all, they lived all of their history, parts of empires. And as part of empire, you learn to be tricky, learn to get along and get what you want, despite the empire watching over you. And therefore, you learn to do things in the dark and things in a smart way. And Czech people are very smart and very hardworking, and this is a big asset. So I think, and with that, I say hi to all my Czech friends and people who might watch this video. I think you're well set up. So if you read my book, you will see you have advantages, and if you don't read my book, well, you'll have some surprises. But overall, I think you'll make it, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be tough, but this part of Europe is going to survive. And for the Western people who watch us, be friendly to Czech and Polish and Hungarian people and even Russians to some extent, because one day these guys might save you, it might save us. One day they will come and save us from the collapse we're in and the deep problems that we will be in. So, anyways, it's a country that I respect a lot and I really like. Prague is one of my favorite cities, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And with that, I hope you'll come here before the collapse, because it's really worth it. Take care, dziękuję.